What's going on, guys? Christmas is over. You just unwrapped your new espresso machine. You're going through the box and you see a pitiful excuse for a tamper, a little plastic thing that needs to be replaced immediately. Today, we're going to talk about those tampers, what they do, what the different ones on the market look like. We're going to talk about why I think tamping is the worst skill to spend your time on. And we're going to talk about why you should throw away basically every single tamper you've ever seen, get one that does the job for you perfectly, and then move on, because tamping is essentially garbage. Let's get started. So if you've been following along, we started out with WDT. It's grinds come out of the grinder, they go into your basket, and we stir them up real good to break up all the clumps. The next step that happens before we put our portafilter into the machine is tamping. The best definition of tamping that I found is tamping is the process of taking the loose, dosed grounds in the portafilter, portaflatter, flapper, flipple flop, and compacting those down into a compressed cake of grounds. For a lot of people, I think tamping is one of the most inconsistent parts of their espresso process. It's a skill that's highly refined and very, very hard to measure if you've done it right until you've gone ahead and made your shot. And that's the problem. So the primary goal is we want a consistent, evenly distributed puck of espresso grounds that's a nice density. Every time we do it, we want it to be the same. If we introduce these little variables here, if one section of the puck is less dense than another puck, what's going to happen is the water is going to treat that as a shortcut, and it's going to swim through your puck, and it's going to find the fastest way through so it can come out with the least amount of pressure as possible. Water is very, very good at finding the path of least resistance. Our goal is to make sure that the water is going to have to move with an even amount of force through the entire puck. The better distributed the water is in the puck, the better and more even our extraction is going to be. In terms of what kind of tampers are available on the market, there are a few different types. I have a few of them here with me so we can walk through them one by one. The first kind of tamper that you'll probably come across is the OG. There's nothing fancy about it. It doesn't do anything special. It's a flat piece of metal that fits inside your basket with a handle that doesn't completely suck that allows you to tamp your grounds. Tamping with a tamper like this involves a set of skills that you have to develop.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
You aren't going to be able to just tamp perfectly, evenly, and consistently with the right amount of force right out of the gate. You just can't do that. I mean, you can't. You're not that good. I'm not that good. You might be that good, but I'm not that good. Second is a little bit of a spin on that first type of tamper. It's the same thing here, only it's convex, meaning the bottom has a little bit of curve. Ooh, that's dirty. It's convex, meaning that the shape of the puck is going to be convex as well. Some people think this promotes a different type of extraction or a more even extraction. I am not of that persuasion. This tamper from La Marzocco, whoever they are, was a gift to me when I bought my Profitec, believe it or not. More on La Marzocco later. Okay, so the Palm Tamper, the third type, actually solves a lot of the problems we're trying to solve. A lot of the consistency issues, a lot of the ergonomic issues, they can all be remedied pretty well with a palm tamper. On the upside of a palm tamper, you have a few things that are really, really cool about it. So you have an edge, and this edge is always going to rest on the outside of the basket, which means that this metal part in the middle is going to be flat every single time. So no matter when you're tamping or how you're tamping, if these two things line up perfectly, you should be able to get a perfectly flat tamp. You're also not going to run into any repetitive stress injuries because you can simply set this into the basket, put your palm on the top and press down, and that shouldn't cause anybody any sort of problems. It's essentially like doing a push-up. If you have trouble doing push-ups, I'm sorry. For the idea of a cafe, I love this. If you're pulling the same espresso every day and using the same dose, or even just on a daily basis, you recalibrate this in the morning before opening, that's fantastic. For the home barista, I am not a fan of the Palm Tampers. Unless you're the type of person that buys a single bag of coffee, works their way through that entire bag of coffee, then purchases a new bag, recalibrates your system, and then works your way through that entire bag, I can see a Palm Tamper working. But if you're the type of person who is making espresso for multiple people in your household, it doesn't have the versatility that's necessary. You can remember, it is graduated on the side, so you could probably roughly remember exactly the type or exactly the level that you're using for all of your coffees at any given time, but I feel that that adds an unnecessary level of complicatedness, which isn't a word, to our workflow, and in the end is going to slow everything down. And I don't want that. Again, I say it all the time. Our goal here is to make the best cup of espresso that we can as quickly as possible, and we want it to be consistent. So the fourth type of tamper is the calibrated tamper. This tamper is essentially cheating. This tamper eliminates so many steps accumulated over the lifetime of the tamper is invaluable. The amount of time that you'll be able to save by using something like this is incredible. You don't have to worry about the skills or having a bad day or, one bad tamp, because essentially it's really hard to this up. Because of the leveling surface on the outside, you don't have to worry about having an uneven tamp. It's easy. It's almost too easy. And that's the best thing about it. It allows you to focus on the other things. It allows you to work on dialing in your grind. It allows you to work on adjusting your temperature. It allows you to work on adjusting your dosage, because tamping is one of those things that you've either done it right or you've done it wrong. If you've tamped incorrectly, then you're going to have extraction problem. You're going to have an uneven extraction. But if you've done it right as best you can, then it's right, and you can work on messing with everything else. The biggest issue with the leveling tampers for the longest time was the price. It was impossible to get one relatively cheaply. I can't come out here in good faith and ask you to spend $150 on a tamper for a device that was only double that. That doesn't make sense. It's inequitable. It's not something that I would expect a person that's just getting into this hobby. But as espresso has gotten more popular, as coffee has gotten more popular, as more and more companies venture in and more manufacturers move in, we've seen the price curve on these come down and come down and come down. At the top end, we have like the force tamper, which is roughly 200 USD. It's calibrated, it's got this fancy impact driver on it, and that sort of sits at the top. Below that, you have like the Cafetech, like this one here, roughly $150 USD, does the job perfectly, has very, very nice machined edges on it. It's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, as everything from Cafetech really is, and it gets the job done. Below that, you have the basic tamper from Decent, and Decent is fantastic. It seems like everything they come out with has a unique value proposition behind it. It's a very pragmatic company, and everything that they develop seems to have a purpose, and I'm a huge fan of that. And that tamper was about $100, I believe. I haven't seen recently, but as everything has moved, we do have manufacturers now in China who are making these tampers that will get the job done for you. They may not be the most beautiful, but they're still solid metal. They're still put together well. Now, the best value proposition for these leveling tampers from a company called Normcore, I'll link their tamper in the description below. This tamper is $30-40 USD, a much more reasonable price point, and will do everything that we've talked about here. It'll ensure that you have a nice even tamp, so if your workflow is optimal, you won't have to think about tamping as much, and I think that's one of the best things about it. It comes with multiple calibrated springs and is a really, really good value, I think. But that's about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you have a leveling tamper? Do you use a Palm Tamper? Do you engage in sacrilege and use a leveling tool?
Thank you so much for joining me, guys. It's always a wonder to have you here. Please do not forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can be informed every time a new video drops. Cheers.
Rivers aren't completely straight. If rizzles, that's why